This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free, and it goes to Gibbs White. Edge of the box, Foley. Yes! Great goal! What a hit from Oliveira! Gibbs White! They've only gone and done it again! Forest back in the lead! Rewarded Gibbs White! Oh, what he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic!
Hello and welcome to this preview edition of Red Side Trent, preparing for the Boxing Day fixture v Tottenham Hotspurs. Joining me from the Fighting Cock is Flav. Flav, how are you, first of all?
Well, I'm just less than 24 hours since watching Liverpool tear us limb from limb. I'm all right. I'm not too bad. I'm in a bit of a strange place as a Spurs fan at the moment, really. I think
You're having fun, Flav. There's loads of goals every week for Tottenham.
It's fun. 100% fun if you're watching Tottenham from a neutral perspective. It's not fun. I mean, some of it's fun, like, beating champions of Europe or the best team in Europe. I know they turned shit, and this was just a precursor to their shitness. But going there and beating them 4-0 was good. We beat Villa at home 4-1, Southampton 5-0. We beat United recently 4-3, Brentford 3-1. It's like we've had massive results and incredible performances, but there's you never quite know what we're going to get. Like, you're going to ask me in a bit to predict this game against Nottingham Forest, and there's no chance I can do that with any faith in what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I watched highlights of the Liverpool game, so you might have to fill in some gaps here. But I mean, is Ange still playing the same sort of way, even though Van der Ven and Ramiro aren't available, with the high line and whatever have you? Because it just before the game, weirdly, you had the same goals conceded as Forest did, and you had the highest scorers in the Premier League. So you're obviously doing something right until this game, and then it's just all gone capitulated in one game, it seemed.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of myths around Spurs that aren't true. Like, we play a high line, but then any team who plays possession football plays high line. Statistically, about the fifth highest line in the Premier League. So it's not. There's this idea that we just sit on the halfway line and just get done on the counter. That isn't the case. Our problem at the moment, and the reasons why we're giving up chances, is the press is the problem, but it's also what's got us so many goals. So it's almost like a balancing act. And this is the argument that's being aimed at Postecoglou, is that he can't balance. He can't find a balance between the extreme attacking nature of pressing and forcing turnovers in their half with defending at the same time. So often you have if a team that's good in possession and they get through the press, which inevitably they can do. You can't win the ball back every time. There are going to be times when you get through the press. It's at that point there's lots of space, typically on the other side of the pitch. So for Forest at the weekend, it will be, if you're pressing the right-hand side, if Elanga plays, he will have abundance of space if you can get through us. And you're going to do that, right? And so, Postecoglou kind of gambles on the fact that we'll give up a couple of big chances, but this will essentially ensure that we score goals. So there's that issue that needs to be fixed. The main issue, though, and people are tired of hearing it, but it's a massive part of the reason, is the number of players we have out, and you're asking the same 11, essentially, barring a couple of tweaks, to press for 70, 80 minutes and do everything that they've been drilled to do. And you just can't cope. You can't cope, what you said, without Van der Ven and Romero. But Vicario is also crucially important, and he's out till March as well. So you just cannot. No team can cope with that, and so your biggest flaws or weaknesses are exposed by that. Not least, you're playing Archie Gray, an 18-year-old kid who's never played centre back ever before coming to Tottenham, and now been asked to do that because we don't have any other centre backs apart from Dragusin. So you're going to get exploited. You've got Spence playing out of position on the left although he's done well in that, but he is naturally a right back. And then you got Porro's been running to the ground. So lots of excuses, and there has to be, you have to find reasons for why we've conceded not just 6 against Liverpool, but 4 against Chelsea and 3 against United in the last 3 home games.
Yeah, I mean, it's a balancing act. It's obviously being in Europe as well, and it's actually a closer game coming into this than you actually think, because although in the table overall it says Forest are 4th and Tottenham are 11th, Forest are only 10th for the home form this season and Tottenham are 9th for away form. So actually, it's actually a closer game in statistics and all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
in that respect, we haven't actually beaten you since 1997, Flav. So
is that right?
But Nuno's got a habit this season of breaking lots of records and whatnot. I will ask you about Nuno in a little
bit. Of course,
yeah. About Brennan. I wanted to ask you about Brennan Johnson, obviously, because it seemed like Spurs fans weren't very happy at the start of the season. He deleted his social media and then suddenly went on an absolute spree, and he's possibly one of Tottenham's brightest sparks this season. I'd say from an outsider's point of view.
Yeah, so that did happen at the start of the season. Some sections of the Spurs fan base who can't handle disappointment took it upon themselves to verbally attack him through his social media. You'll find assholes everywhere you go, unfortunately. It was so severe to the point that he deleted his socials, as you said. He's got them back now. But yeah, went, I think it was 7 games on a bounce, including 1 game for Wales that he scored in. And it was 8 in 7 in that. He showed a maturity and an ability to be positive and focus on his game. What we've realised with Brennan Johnson is that he's not a winger, and you probably know this already. He's a forward. He's a right-sided forward. Like if there was a 4-4-2, you wouldn't have him on the right-hand side of midfield. You'd have him as one of the forwards. Like his ability to read the game and arrive at the right time has been brilliant this season. But I think there's an expectation of him to receive the ball out wide and put your head down and beat your man. And he doesn't really have it in his locker to do that. He's quick, but he doesn't, that one-on-one ability to stand the man up and go past him. It's difficult to do. And that's why players that can do it at will are so expensive to buy. So Brennan Johnson, it's clear that he was bought for a specific role in this team, and he's fulfilling it. The amount of times he's arrived at the back post with a chance he just cannot miss. I've lost count the amount of times he's done it since he joined in. But I think people had an idea of what he should be, and the money that we paid for him was expensive. So they wanted to see this kind of marauding right-hand side player who was taking players on. It's just not his game. But when he gets opportunities to shoot, he's clinical. And again, like I say, arriving at the right place at the right time. He manages to do that without just with ease. There was a goal we scored against Man City, our 4th goal. This is a good example of this. Is when Timo Werner picked it up on. You might not remember this, or Forest fans listening to this won't necessarily know this. But we were 3-0 up, and Werner took the ball on the left-hand side of the pitch and burnt up Kyle Walker, who's knackered at that point. And lo and behold, once again, Brennan Johnson arrived at the back post and just side foots it in. However, there was Sky have that shot where you can see the entire pitch and all the players.
Yeah.
You can see there was one player on that entire pitch that reacted with Timo Werner at that time, and that was Brennan Johnson. Everyone else is static. He's already taken up pace. So his intellect, his pitch IQ is very, very good. Now, will he ever be like a fan favourite at Tottenham? I'm not sure. It's just because of our system, the way he plays, perhaps not. But there was this, like a grid of 4 pictures. I think we had Basuma, Bentancur. Who was the others? There was one other, and Brennan Johnson. And the question was like, who do you keep out of these 4? I think it's Dragerson as well. And everyone I spoke to about it was Brennan Johnson. So he does get the respect. It's just a different relationship than the one we thought we'd have. But Spurs fans can be very tetchy and lack an element of patience, and there's a feeling around the football club typically at the moment that there's a frustration, and it isn't really about the players. It's not really about the manager. It's really about the ownership, and so everyone kind of catches strays because of it.
Your point about Johnson's timing is bang on as well. Like he's so.
You remember that at Forest?
Like, he's immaculate, mate. Like he'd just pop up in the right moment, right time, and he'd just be there. But then he'd also just hammer goals in from wherever because he was in such good form. He just Joe. I think when strikers are in form, they just shoot from crazy angles and then just end up going in the goal when you know you're on it. So
do you agree with me? Like, I don't know if what you saw about this at Forest, that he's less a winger and more of a forward. Like I know wingers are forwards, but
so the season we got promoted, we'd play like predominantly a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-1-2, and he would be the right-handed sided striker, like a wide striker, if you want to call it that. Exactly. So he'd drift out wide, but he would end up being in central positions to score goals anyway. So yeah. I kind of agree with you. He's like a bit of an old-fashioned. He'd be like a Defoe to a Crouch.
Yeah,
relate it back to Tottenham or Portsmouth.
Yeah, good right.
For that fact. So yeah, I know. I agree. I mean, it's funny how Jed Spence is now suddenly playing, but I think that's out of necessity rather than him maybe earning a spot, or has he earned a spot as well?
Very interesting him as well with Jed Spence. So we've had a couple of conversations, haven't we, in the past? We talked about him as well, didn't we? So he came back. He played a lot of pre-season, and Ange Postecoglou, he got offered a new contract at the club. This is after it was almost doing anything we can to sell him. Was trying to tout him around Europe. The clubs that were interested couldn't really afford to buy him. Talking about like Genoa and players and teams like that. Did well at Genoa, so much so that they wanted him on a permanent basis. They just didn't want to pay. We want €8 million or something. They just didn't want to pay it, which seems crazy given the hype that he had playing for Norwich Forest. But it's always been his relationships with the football club or a particular manager that he's never really been able to get an opportunity. And you saw it at, was it Borough he was at? And it was Steve Cooper that really got something out of him. So he's always had issues, but it came back. And Postecoglou was so impressed with him that he said that he's really turned the corner, and you can tell he wants to play this season. He doesn't want to go out on loan again. He wants to knuckle down. I think he's even said it recently in an interview that he's realised that he needs to adapt his mentality if he's going to be successful at Tottenham or in the Premier League at all. So there's been an enlightenment there from the player on the player's half, because it's not up to him. Like if you don't buy into Postecoglou's way of playing or don't show the right attitude, then he just doesn't want to work with you. Whereas other managers can see things differently. I spoke with James Alcott about this recently on our podcast, where Neil Warnock knew how to deal with Adel Taarabt, but other managers would just bomb him out and say, we can't deal with him. It happened actually at Spurs. He was just left out of the football club and he joined QPR, I think, on a free or something like that, because they just didn't want to deal with the attitude. There wasn't enough in it for them. Other managers find a way to make it work. My point here is eventually sort of, eventually got his first start last week. He'd been coming off the benches every now and then, always on the bench, even when we had a full squad. And so he's now given an opportunity, and he's really impressive against Manchester United. He's like he won 10 duels out of 10, which is more than anyone on the pitch. He's playing out of position on that left hand side. 35 seconds into his debut against Southampton, he got an assist. 36 seconds. So, and everybody's always been kind of like desperate to see him play and give him time. And it was clear that there was a player there, and now that he is playing, it's going to be difficult to get him out. Weirdly, and there's guys called Lily White Labs, and they produce lots of good stuff on Twitter. But they said that as an all-round player, he's probably the best fullback we have in terms of the defensive attributes to it, as well as the his ability to get forward. Like Porro and Udogie are good player, really good going forward, right? Their main attributes when they're fully fit is carrying the ball into that box, and have been fantastic at it. But the defensive part of their game is lacking somewhat, whereas Jed Spence is good defensively. So, yeah, I think we'll see much more of him, unless he just says that he doesn't want it.
Yeah, I mean, I know Udogie was back on the bench for Liverpool, so if Spence is going to start because he's been in form, it'll be a good battle between him and Alanga, a good battle between Nico Williams and Brennan Johnson on the other side. If Johnson does start, because they're good friends, international teammates. I did want to ask one question. I've been meaning to ask this to a Spurs fan for ages, but I wanted to wait until you come on, Flav. But the narrative, to quote James Orcott, is that Spurs fans are unsure what they want. You hear them on TalkSport like, get rid of the manager if you lose, or he's brilliant, or whatever. What do Spurs fans really want, Flav? I know that's a really broad and awkward question, but it seems to be a vicious cycle with supporters. I don't want to generalize everyone in that because not everyone's going to think the same. But what do you want as a Spurs fan?
I want to win something. Sort of first and foremost.
But in the Carabao.
That's done. If look what Liverpool done to us in one league game, we've got to play them over 2 legs. We've got no chance. Europa League's much more realistic if we can get, because the timing of it, if we can get our players back, the Europa League is a realistic thing we can win. Even playing the way we do, if we have all our players back, it's different. It's a different question. What do we want? It's too. It depends who you talk to. I know it's a bit of a cop out answer. For me, I want us to be competitive in the league, playing a brand of football that's exciting, and eventually one day, what will come with that will be success. If the owners of the football club decide that that's something they want, all right, Postecoglou can only do so much if he's been given Archie Gray and Burville as 2 key signings when neither of them probably quite ready for the Premier League yet, and they've been asked to play many minutes. Archie Gray probably is, but he's still very young, rough around the edges, and he's shown a maturity that most 18-year-olds wouldn't be able to display, and a performance level that most 18-year-olds wouldn't be able to put out. But if you ask another fan, how should £50 million be spent? It probably isn't on 2 prospects with a very high ceiling, and lots of room to grow in terms of their value, transfer value. I've been a big fan of Postecoglou since he came in. He says the right things, in my opinion, and plays football in the right way. So for me, that was enough for a long time, but I don't like getting pumped 6-3 by Liverpool. That was a tough watch. I don't know what we want, mate. You see, I'm sort of dancing around this question. We want to win, but none of us had any experience of it, so we don't know what it feels like. We're talking about a League Cup. Most people are old enough to might remember the FA Cup, but I'm 43. I was 10. I don't really remember it that well. You know what I mean? We went. I was aware Spurs won, but it's not like the 2 League Cups with the amount of investment and the amount of money that people pay to go and watch Spurs, and what's asked of them is not enough, really. Especially when you see other clubs that we claim to be peers with picking up FA Cups. Like Man United have been absolute dog meat for 2 years, and they've won 2 cups in that era. And I honestly, I've come to a realization, and it's taken a long while, and others have got there much quicker than me, but I don't think the way Daniel Levy operates will move us towards being a successful football club on the pitch, unless he has a plan I'm not aware of that will be successful. All I can say is what I've seen in recent years, he's kind of happy to just tick over, I think. We generate so much money for a club that doesn't win anything. Like, in terms of revenue and what the club's worth, it's insane. Third in terms of it could be different. We could be football first, and we could be, we could look at how other clubs like our arch rivals Arsenal have behaved, and we could be operating like that. But he doesn't want to, and so there will always be this button of heads between the supporters and the owners of the football club. But I guess I want everything, right? I want us to win a trophy, but I want us to be playing really attractive football. I've never enjoyed my football when we had Mourinho and Nuno and and Conte. I didn't enjoy the football we were playing. I didn't look forward to watching Tottenham play. Most of the time, barring the last few games, Chelsea and Liverpool games, I'm excited to watch them play. That's what you want. I'm going to go to Tottenham and be entertained. Hopefully win.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm enjoying how Nuno's set up Forest this season.
Tell me about it. How is he?
I mean, it's really funny because you ask people when we got linked to him, everyone was a bit like underwhelmed because obviously everyone just remembers Tottenham, but he was actually quite a success in Saudi Arabia. I know that sounds so stupid, but I looked at some things that were written about him and the football that they played in Saudi Arabia, and it sounds like he took that time to use that as a method to do something a little bit different and have a few experiments whilst winning the league in Saudi Arabia with Al Ittihad. So that was pretty good, I guess.
One of the top teams Al Ittihad?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's the one that Mitrovic is at now, I believe. And unless it's Al Hilal. Unless it's Al Hilal. I always forget.
Mitrovic is killing it over there, isn't he? I saw that.
Yeah, I believe so. But so yeah, one Nuno coming, everyone a bit unfashionable, bit like, we've got Nuno, no one was that bothered, and then it's took him a little while, but I think pre-season helped massively with us, and I think he just fits with us like a glove, really, similar to the Wolves, like how Wolves used to play. It just kind of goes hand in hand.
What is his style of play? Is it counter-attacking?
Yeah, massively. I think it would be. I don't think you can really align it with anything else. I think he's clever in how he does it though, because we don't sit really, really deep unless we have to, but it's let's set up to trap teams. Like the press is always really clever. There's always like a trigger point, and then like suddenly Forest are cornering a team into an area of the pitch where they have to either lump it long or we gain the ball back, and then when we're away, we're already at your goal within 30 yards, say. So he's done it in a really clever way. I wouldn't say we're like massive on the press like maybe a Spurs or a Liverpool used to be, or a City used to be, or maybe even Newcastle. We're not like that. We're kind of a bit more passive. And our style of football is very throwback. It's very like long ball. We played the most long balls in the league, Flav. We put Everton to shame.
So what but you're winning, so it doesn't matter, does it?
No, absolutely not. We've got when you've got rapid wingers like Hudson-Odoi and Elanga and then a target man in Chris Wood where he's got runners off him. It works brilliantly, and I think that's why he tried to get another striker that could do something a little bit different. But we got dealt the hand that we're good because we couldn't get anyone over the line in that department for what budget we had. So he's done with what he's got, and Chris Wood's banged in 10 goals this season. Absolutely unbelievable. Like I just don't get how it's happened, but it has, and we're having a great time.
Just always there, isn't he? What would you in terms of what Chris Wood could do against Spurs? What do we have to be wary of? Is it he's a willingness? Does he win the ball in the air? Is it the directness of the play? They always find him. Is he just arrive at the right time? If he's going up against Archie Gray, is he going to target? Are they going to target that?
I mean, I think it would be daft if we didn't at least try and exploit that, because Wood should have him physically dominated, and because Matt Sells is pretty good at pinging balls from goal kicks and being just like rolling the ball out. I wouldn't be shocked if that's like an area where we target and Chris Wood gets it down to his chest and then gets the ball and we're within your third sort of thing, because we bypass midfield quite a lot. That's sort of our game plan almost. To bypass playing your third, don't mess about at the back. Although Murillo's probably one of the most press-resistant centre-halves in the league. He's I don't know if you've seen much of him, Flav. I know he tried an audacious 60-yarder at the new White Hart Lane last season.
So I know about him. I watch out for him because when we spoke last, and this was it would have been about a year ago, I'd imagine, and you were talking about him then. So I have kept an eye out for him. So if he's press resistant, that's going to be a problem for Spurs. And you bypass
resistant.
Yeah.
It's going to be. I think if you're neutral watching Forest, you'd go, it's quite turgid football. But for us, it's great because who wants to see about 30 passes round the back and then actually just end up losing the ball and doing nothing with it when you can do it in about 10? That's what we'd
Well,
end up doing, really.
do you know what? There is something in that, because there's something you do see at Spurs and Arsenal and anyone who tries to kind of play out from the back. There's an element of control that the managers want, so that they insist on that. You know, you pump the ball long. There's a 50% chance you keep it, 50% chance you don't. But if you play out from the back and control it, especially if you draw players in, there's better opportunities. But it does sometimes take a long while. But it's also important actually that Forest and play the football they play and they're being successful with it, right? It's boring. The Premier League has become boring with the teams with the most amount of money just dominating. And actually, I'm looking at the table now, and obviously top three permitting. You've got Forest in Champions League places, Bournemouth fifth, which will effectively be a Champions League place by the looks of it. Then you got Villa. And then you got Fulham and Brighton and Newcastle, and then Man City making up the top 10. It's important to some degree that happens. You know what I mean? It's and especially with Forest not playing the way that playing a more direct brand of football still works. It's not one catch-all way of winning football matches, and you got to take your hat off to Nuno and what he's doing there, because I think he wouldn't have dreamt this in a million years, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I watched Match of the Day at the weekend, and Ipswich are 2-0 down, and the Muric has tried to play the ball to the centre midfield, and he's got caught on it, and Isak's literally put the ball as Muric just fell on the floor. And I just kind of laughed because Ipswich, Southampton, and Leicester should really be playing the football we're playing, because they'll be more successful with it. We should be playing the football they're trying to play half the time, especially Southampton and Ipswich, because we're higher up in the league. But it just doesn't work for us. We haven't got them type of players, weirdly enough, although we have got technical players as well. And it's a very strange thing, because you look at like Gibbs White, Elliot Anderson, Hudson-Odoi, and people like that, and they're all very good players. They all could play in higher, the so-called higher teams than Forest when you watch them. But it just works for us, and I'm proper enjoying it. Like, I love Nuno. I think he's brilliant. Like,
Is he
starting
universally popular?
Well, I mean, we're fourth in the league, Flav. If there's a Forest fan that doesn't like him, I'll be very shocked. I'll be wondering what kind of drugs they're taking in the morning, because
the reason why I say that is that Spurs could be fourth in the league and the people absolutely hate Postecoglou. It's weird. It's just a weird. It's a weird way that we operate. You'll always find people out there that, you know, that don't like him, and you know, probably given what's happened recently, there's more of a reason not to than there was before. But yeah, I reckon even if Spurs would be going, well, football shit, so we don't like him, and then they'll stick.
Well, that's what you did with Conte, wasn't it? And Mourinho to an extent. You sacked Mourinho before a cup final. I find that baffling.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I can't even remember what was going wrong at that time. Was this 2021? Was it? 22. I can't remember. That is baffling, isn't it? But that's fucking Tottenham Hotspur Football Club in a nutshell. Conte was a little bit different. He had really good start, really good end to the first season, and then the second season wasn't as good. And he's a right-hand man. He's Vetroni. I can't remember his name now. He passed away really suddenly, so that affected Conte massively. And then he had gallbladder surgery, and he was gone for about 9 weeks. It just wasn't there. He was just in Italy. And then he made it back for the quarterfinal of the Champions League, or it might be last 16. We played against AC Milan, and we were just awful. And then it was just, and then we went to Southampton, and that's when he had his mad rant. It was almost like he was our manager, but he wasn't there. He wasn't present. And then when he was present, he looked utterly miserable. So the football was almost like secondary. It was like, what if this guy fucking hates us? He hates being there. So yeah, and the football wasn't great. Which is why Postecoglou was such an antidote to that.
Does our style of football? It's not going to concern you. I don't like Tottenham aren't going to be a team that's scared of anyone really. But for you as a fan, does it are you a bit like, this is going to be a tough game because how we defend and how we attack is a little bit it's a little bit different to the rest of the league. Like, I think we said this on our pod. It seems like the rest of the league have forgotten that defending is part of the game, and like you're seeing crazy scorelines and like really terrible goals given away. It's never like teams slicing teams open as much anymore. It's more just getting caught out from doing stupid
I
things
agree
or
with you.
things
It's
players
bizarre.
that they're not capable of doing.
I think it's Nottingham Forest doing it well. I think Fulham do it well, and then I think Arsenal, unfortunately, do it well as well. But you're right; it's almost like there's been an abandonment of the principle of defending and why it's so important. I just wonder how much influence Pep Guardiola's had on this, because it's worked so well for the best cliched sort of answer would be that best form of defense, or the first form of defense is attack. But there's nothing wrong with digging in and being functional, and Spurs could definitely do with a bit of that. And I would be much more confident. I'm always confident, and what's the point of being anything else other than that? Because it makes no difference anyway. I could say we're going to beat you 4-0. We may or we may not. We might lose 4-0. It means nothing, right? But it's a better place mentally to be in if you're being in a positive mind space. And so, but there is an element of, there have been ways of us winning games if we were a little bit more sensible and decided to defend a little bit better and make actually that a bit more of a priority. But it's just, as Ange always says, it's who we are, mate. So this is the way we're going to play, regardless of how many injuries we have. We have no idea when Van de Ven and Romero are going to return. They literally came back, started surprisingly against Chelsea. Romero lasted, 20 minutes, maybe less. He was gone. Now he's out for 6 weeks or so. And Van de Ven, it was apparently not much of an issue. Then now he's gone. And Vicario as well. You're transporting a triangle there that's crucial to the way we play. We play out, spending so much time playing out from the back. And like I said at the start of the show, it's like you've got Archie Gray. You've got Dragusin, is very much supposed to be a backup centre-back. And Fraser Forster, who's about as uniquely old school as you're going to get for a goalkeeper. Like, I don't get me wrong, a lot of time for him, and he's made some impeccable saves. But playing out with his feet isn't, it's not what he's grown. It's not, the muscle memory isn't there where it is for Vicario, where he remembers. He kind of it's just natural to play that way. So, looking forward to the weekend. I mean, yes, there's lots of what Forest do that worry me, and that ability to break the press by playing over the midfield is going to be a problem for Spurs. So I'd be. Who else is informed for you?
Everyone, I suppose. Anthony Langa's picked up 2 goals in his last 2 games. In the last 2 games.
Sorry, I saw this thing on Twitter, and they were saying, who's the player that the fans have an irrational hatred for? Not hatred might be a word, but just he's not less popular than the rest. A bit of a scapegoat. And Elanga came up. A couple of Forest fans said Elanga for you.
It seems to change every single week. It depends who's out of form, doesn't it, or who's not playing, or whatever. You know what football clubs are like. Elanga was, I think Elanga, for me, especially on our part, we were all very much, we know what he's capable of. Last season, he got 14 goal contributions in his first proper season as a pro, really, because he didn't get the opportunities at Man United, and he wasn't doing anything. I think he'd registered 1 assist this season, and we was all thinking we know what he's capable of, but he's just not doing it. And then it seems like he got taken out of the team, put back in the team, taken out, put back in. And then Villa, he's come on, scored the winner in late Saturday against Brentford, capitalised on a mistake, puts the ball in the bottom corner. And it almost seems like he's back. So I wouldn't say he's probably got some more leeway now. Someone that divides the fan base is Ryan Yates. He always will.
He was mentioned as well. What is it? Is his aggression, or is it you think he has limited ability? Why does he?
Limited ability. He's great if you're going to play a team, and he's great if you're going to be a team and sit in and everything else or go away. He's a great player to have in your squad for that, and a closer. We brought him on against Brentford when we're kind of sat back and we're looking to play on the counter. He's good at like winning the ball and then nicking it, giving it to someone who's better than him. But if you want to control a game of football or have that, he's not the man for it, because he's not like a Rodri or maybe a Basuma or a Pape Sarr who can actually play football and get the ball and pass. Do you know what I mean? And keep it, and keep it in tight spaces.
He's aggressive and he's physical and he unsettles other midfielders.
Yeah,
like you put him in a duel with another midfielder, you're backing Ryan Yates, aren't you?
Yeah, you tend to. I think he got a lot of flack when we played City the other week in midweek, where he like got a flailing arm maybe into the head and sprawled down like a sack of potatoes. And then everyone was kind of like, "That's our captain. He should." And it's not within his nature to be like that, to try and con a referee for a flailing arm. Like he should be.
So he wasn't actually injured.
No. He's got a habit of conning referees for cheap free kicks, Ryan Yates, and we love it when it pays off. But when it's so blatantly obvious and it doesn't come off and he complains about it, it's like, oh come on, like people are catching on now.
You love James Maddison. You absolutely love him.
I mean, James Maddison's a fabulous footballer though. Like, there's this argument obviously him and Gibbs White, isn't there? Like, who's better? James Maddison puts numbers on a piece of paper in terms of goals and assists, but then he might not do what Morgan Gibbs White does off the ball, which is run around, battle, tackle, fight, and that sort of thing. So if they combined as a footballer, they'd be probably one of the best in the world. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I like Gibbs White. I like him a lot. I think kind of in terms of your. If I was to be so bold as to say, if I could take one of your players, I think Gibbs White would be well up the top. Yeah. If you had to take one of ours, who would it be?
Oof, that is a tough one. I'd look like Vicario is obviously a very good goalkeeper, and I think that's somewhere we need to look. Dominic Solanke, purely because one, he's a really good footballer, fabulous striker, but he's on a nemesis list. Flav, he scores passes all the time. He scored a hat trick last season for Bournemouth against us, I believe. Yeah, he did. Because when Dad's 10 men for a ghost tackle, Rob Jones gave a red card to Willy Bolly for winning the ball, and then Solanke ended up scoring a hat trick. I think he scored in the previous home game. Yeah, so I'm not looking forward to playing him because he just loves playing at the City ground.
Yeah,
so probably Solanke, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good shot. He's got 10 goals and 5 assists for us this season already. So he's so much better than I thought he was going to be. I thought £65 million was going to be a lot of money, but we just part of the reason why we're so free scoring is a big part to how effective he is, and defensively from corners, the amount of headers he managed to get away with him with. It just seems to be right where the ball, and Harry Kane had a similar sort of skill as well when he just got his nut on the ball, and defensively just you're much more solid with him being there. But yeah, no, he's been class this year. Without Dominic Solanke, we'd struggle a lot. What? Not Maddison?
No. Gibbs White over Maddison.
Gibbs White. Okay.
What? I think what I like about Solanke is he will drop in and link play up, which Kane used to do. I know he might not have the passing ability of Kane, but I think he offers that for Spurs, and then your runners can go past him because he's got the ability to at least turn and pass it to someone. Do you know what I mean? Where I know you were playing like false nines, and Son was having to play up front all the time, and I know you scored loads of goals last season, but I think you're better for having Dominic Solanke there.
Yeah, definitely. But, so what are you saying? Brennan Johnson or Hudson-Odoi?
Hudson-Odoi.
Fuck, really? All right. Well, there's one player you haven't mentioned, which is surprising. It's Kulusevski. Surely you're on him.
I really like him. I was going to ask you about him. Actually,
of course, you really like him. He's amazing.
He's changed position this year.
He's played in both. He's played on the right hand side. Like if I was to say you Kulusevski or Hudson-Odoi, and you said Hudson-Odoi, I'd have to terminate this conversation.
We need a left-footed right winger. Hudson-Odoi plays left wing, so if it doesn't really matter. But
Hudson-Odoi's played left wing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought I saw him on the right.
Yeah. No, he plays left.
All right,
he loves cutting Flav. It's like his trademark move.
Yeah.
Old man's eye problem because he doesn't always score.
Kulusevski's played on the right and in the middle. Probably about more in the middle, but but yeah, he's been used on both sides, and he started the last 3 games on the right hand side. What you going to ask me? Why? What impact it's made? The change?
Yeah, because it seems like he's popping up with a lot more goals and a lot more assists, especially from playing in the middle. Whenever I've seen Spurs and where he's scoring goals from.
Yeah, you probably won't notice, but he grew up always playing centrally. So he played in Sweden, but also when he was at Atalanta and at Juventus, he was always played centrally. And that's naturally where he wants to be. He doesn't want to play on the right hand side, but Conte had him out there. He played a bit out there for Juve as well, and Conte used him out on the right, and he started really well for Spurs. But yeah, he's been probably a standout player, I would say, this season. Him and Dominic Solanke. It's just very difficult to predict what he's going to do and how he's going to use the ball. And it's been a bit of a revelation. Very press resistant, hard to get off the ball. Has good passing range. And yeah, typically if Kulusevski's having a good game, then Tottenham play well.
Yeah, he's deceiving. Like I think because I used to think he was a winger. That's actually quite interesting to know that he wants to play more central. So that's quite
yeah. He said it.
Yeah, it's good, and I think just I know referring back to a point that you made ages ago about you like triangle of players, Vicario, Romero, and Van der Ven missing. We've the consistency we've had this season of Milenkovic, Murillo, and Sells has been so beneficial to us. That's why we're so high up in the league as well. I mean, if Nikola Milenkovic isn't the signing of the summer, if we get a European spot and he is not the signing of the summer awarded to him in whatever mythical award ceremony, then I will be very shocked because he's been unbelievable. He is.
Where did you get him from?
To Fiorentina for 12 million quid, and he's probably worth about 60 now.
And what is it what's he so good at?
He's just a leader. I think like he's good. He's an old-fashioned defender of head it and kick it, but he's also got a calmness about him where if there's there's so many times this season where it's been a 50-50, more in his favour, so maybe like a 60-40 where you think he's just going to go straight through the player, and actually he's just calmly passed the ball to a red shirt, and then we've started an attack. He doesn't seem to get phased by a lot of things, and he's an absolute menace in the air. I mean, the header against Man United the other week was brilliant. The header against Aston Villa the following week was very good as well. And he's just added so much to us. We were the worst team for set pieces last year. I think we've conceded like over 23 goals from set pieces last year. I think we've conceded like 2 this year. So he's made a massive difference in that. And he's made Murillo a much, much better player as well alongside him.
Good for you.
Great response.
All right, mate. I've got to wrap this up because we've got another podcast to record right now. I'm sorry, mate. But it's been fascinating talking to you. And
score prediction, though, Flav.
Yeah, I'm going to say 3-2 Tottenham.
3-1, bloody hell! I think it will be a high scoring. I've 3-1. I think it will be.
What 3-1 to Forest?
Yeah.
Well, you're only going to get 3.
No defense. You've got no defense and a goalkeeper.
I just said that you only get. That's all you're going to get. That's not very brave, is it? Is that all you think you can get against Spurs? 3.
We don't score more than 3, so you know. All
right, there we go. I'll probably run in front of a train if it's 3-1 to Forest. So I hope that'll make you happy.
Don't do that, Flav. Don't do that. It's not all doom and gloom.
Yes, it is.
We're the 4th best team in the country. Don't be too disheartened if you lose to us.
There is that. Yeah, there is that.
All
right. Well, good luck, mate. Have a great Christmas.
Appreciate that. You too, buddy. Take care.